Hello, welcome back. I'm Bud Churchward, WD7FHC, and this is the second in a series of videos taken from a digital workshop that we had on Zoom earlier this month. If you haven't seen the first video, I'll put one of those box gizmos up here that you can click on and go view it. In both of these videos, we're taking a look at how to control our amateur radios remotely using features such as rig control. In the first video, we were looking at FL Digi and some of the issues that occur there. In this video, we're going to talk about using Direwolf, packet radio, and rig control at the same time on UHF, VHF radios, especially radios that have two sides. So when a radio has two VFOs, an A side and a B side, rig control, which works very, very well with HF radios, has issues when we try to use them with VHF and UHF radios that require the control of two sides of the radios. My friend Steve Magnuson, AG7GN, has written a Python script that addresses these issues, and he will demonstrate that here in this video. You will see him implementing rig control through his 710 Python script using an application called PAT. If you're not familiar with it, PAT is a Linux amateur radio program that substitutes for WinLink, which only runs on a PC. Of course, as you hear the discussion among the various hams here, you should know that we're all running Direwolf on a Raspberry Pi using our Nexus DR-X Digital Radio cross-patch board. If you'd like your own Nexus DR-X kit, go to WB7FHC.com to find all the details.
I wanted to mention about rig control, or I should say, I'll call it rig control. Rig control with Direwolf. Okay, so I'll use that. Am I still sharing here?
No,
I guess I'm not.
I turned your sharing off there when we started. So we see
okay.
So turn it back on.
All right. Okay. So in the Direwolf, let's just go here to this the TNC one. So you'll notice there's a rig control tab here on the Direwolf TNC, and this allows you to manipulate the HamLib method of rig control if you want to. The way I've set up this GUI is that it actually does use HamLib for rig control, but it uses the dummy rig. And the dummy rig in HamLib is a way to fool the application into thinking it's actually talking to the radio when it's not. And the reason that's important with PAT is that if you are, let's go back to the monitor mode here. If you open the PAT web interface, and you go to Action and Connect, and you click the Show RMS list, and you select this one, for example, okay? Well, let's change a little bit. 39. Oh, okay. That's not going to work for. I'm connected to a rig that's not doesn't have HF. So let me select packet here and select this guy here. Okay. So you can see that what I did there is I selected from the RMS list, and it populated this information up here with my selection from down here, including the frequency. Okay. The way PAT works is if it sees a frequency in this field, it assumes you are using rig control. Okay. And if you click Connect now, it will attempt to change frequencies to whatever's in this field. If you're not running any kind of rig control, your connect will fail, and you have to be monitoring that here, and it'll say unable to QSY to 144.990. That's why I automatically start rig control on the background and with a dummy rig. Okay, so it will send HamLib the command to change frequencies to 144.990 even though nothing happens anywhere else. It just goes into the bit bucket. But if you're running the 710 script, then you can change frequencies there to whatever matches here, and then go to, and it'll transmit to the right frequency. If this field is blank, it'll work fine, because if there's nothing in the frequency field, it will not attempt to QSY to that frequency first. Okay, is that clear? That's why I implemented it the way I did with the dummy rig. I do give you the option of going into the rig control, click manage rig control, and you can see up here it says rig control D, which is the rig control daemon, is running for HamLib dummy. All right. If you want to use rig control, if you have a rig that's well supported, like the 7100, for example, the ICOM 7100, you can search for it in here, for example. I'll just put 7100 and do find, and you can see that the ICOM 7100 is listed here. So I can select that, and it will reconfigure rig control for that rig, and then restart it and run it in the background, and then QSY will work. There's also the 710 is in here. Okay, the ICOM or the Kenwood 710D or G. And you can certainly select that, but it suffers from all the same problems that I mentioned under FLDigi. Push to talk control will move automatically to whatever side you have selected, and it's kind of a mess. So that's why I recommend just keeping this at HamLib dummy, and then running the 710 script to change whatever frequency you need to change to. Okay. Questions on that?
I'm sure that you have probably extensively looked into it. How big is the gap between having your tool be something that these other applications could see?
I've not actually looked into how much effort that would be. The alternative is to work with these folks to make their
existing work better.
Their existing work better.
Yeah.
But like I said, the problem is the paradigm of having digital on one side of the radio. First of all, having radios with two sides and having digital on one side of the radio is a paradigm that's kind of foreign to HF rigs. So I'm not sure how well received it would be for me to, submit patches.
Well, and I think more importantly, to try to work towards some growth to a radio that was being marketed would be one thing, but something that's discontinued, its life expectancy. The fuse has been lit on that. So
yeah.
Probably that's just what we're up against. I guess more importantly, down the line, we gotta. I say we, self-serving. We gotta figure out a substitute, a replacement for what the Kenwood does.
Yeah, it is. It's very rare to find a full-featured CAT-controlled UHF VHF radio. They're quite rare.
Well, and some of the newer releases of equipment that's coming out, it seems like they're drifting more into their own proprietary solutions as well. So these dual interfaces, even the digital side, right? Those are seems like that's starting to change. So anyhow,
right.
I guess we'll just stay tuned. So to recap, you don't use the rig control, if I heard correctly. You do not use rig control for PAT then. You still use that other tool.
Rig control is operating in the background as a dummy.
Okay.
Yeah, and when rig control is operating as a dummy, you can simultaneously use the 710 script because it doesn't actually communicate with the radio. It just, fools Pat into thinking it is.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a interesting point here that on my when I'm using your little icon with the rig control, the controller for the Kenwood, my radio's on the single side, showing the 145850, but on your GUI for this controller, I've got both sides.
Yes, there is no way, you're right, there is no way for me to know. Kenwood doesn't expose a control that allows me to query the radio to tell my software that it's in single, that it's only using a single side. So I don't know. The program can't know that because there's no way for me to know that it's in that mode.
Well, that's not really a.
You've muted yourself, Dave.
I just ignore that one side then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you're running, so that's an important point you bring up, though. If you're operating your Kenwood as a single-sided radio, in other words, you've disabled the feature where it has two sides, then rig control becomes a little easier, right? Because push to talk and control and digital are always on the same side. There's no moving between the two. So you might actually have much better luck using rig control and FL Digi if you're operating in that mode. I rarely do that. So, if I want to keep the two-sided features of this rig, I try to avoid rig control. Okay. Any questions on that?
If you're running the one side, even though you have both sides on your radio, on your GUI here, you can only run the one side. Mm-hmm. So how do you talk? Is it possible for you to like talk to a repeater, even though you have the GUI up for the one side? That's what we've been talking about, or you've been trying to explain.
I'm not sure. I have not tried to use my script when the radio is on one side. It's just never been something that I've wanted to do, so I haven't looked into it. I'm not sure.
Well, what I mean is, if I have my radio back on two sides, I still can't talk. I can't control the radio, rig control, but can I still have the one side as digital and then just use and then switch on the radio and go to like, for instance, to go to a repeater?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I operate in that mode all the time.
All right, so I just manually switch back and forth then.
Yeah, there's really no switching involved. So for example, on my rig, I have side A tuned to the Church Road repeater, okay? And side B is my digital side, and it is on simplex 145580, okay? So when I pick up my microphone, and push to talk and control are on the A side of the radio. So when I pick up my microphone, I can just press push to talk, and I am assured that my comms are going to go out on the A side of the radio to the Church Road repeater. And when I run FL Digi, I'm assured that my comms are going to go out the B side of the radio over simplex on 145580. I don't have to be concerned about where any other settings on the radio. I don't have to be consciously looking over to see, gee, did rig control move my settings to the wrong side of the radio. It just works the way I expect it to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm sure you answered my question, but I'm not actually following you. But I'll go back and look at the recording.
Okay. All right.
I think the key thing there is that by using Steve's app instead of rig control makes changes to our radio that we might not be aware of. And so you would have to be constantly checking to see, did it change it or did it not change it? And using the utility that Steve has created here, it won't mess with our radio. It lets us change the radio. It doesn't do it for us. Would that be accurate?
That is well put. Yep, exactly.
Now, as I was following along, some of my screens weren't matching your screens with several different steps along the way there. I'm guessing that's because I'm still on the old, I have not upgraded to Bullseye. Okay.
Most likely.
I was waiting for everybody to get a few people to get through it so that, yeah, it's stable, it's easy to get to, and that way I can ask for the help when I stumble a little bit more easily. But time to do that one.
Okay.
And then I'll come back and I'll rework this whole recording.